Well, welcome to the YMyHealth podcast. I'm Julie Woon. I'm one of the co-hosts. And today we are here with Jen French as part of the Fight CRC initiative on Capitol Hill. And Jen, you were a caregiver for your wife who was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And so I wanted to start with just a little bit of background on that and also just, what your understanding or knowledge was of colorectal cancer before this all happened.
Yeah. So, hi. I thank you for having me. I'm here because my wife was diagnosed at the age of 32, passed away at the age of 35. And to be honest, in terms of knowledge of colorectal cancer prior to her diagnosis was 0%. There was no knowledge on my end, and on my wife's end. There's just not enough awareness for people in our age group, which I think is scary. But I think as time has gone on, it seems to be that more people are opening their eyes to what's actually happening. But
yeah, I'm so sorry about your wife. And
thank you.
You're in a very unique situation, I think, as a caregiver. We've talked to a few different caregivers, and everybody's situation is always going to be unique to them. But you all were also expecting at the same time, and so I think your perspective is very interesting. But can you walk us through, the moment you all found out that she was diagnosed?
Yeah, we had gotten married in 2019, and we knew we wanted to have a child. And right after we got married, COVID happened, and so everything was put on pause because fertility was considered elective. And so we ended up holding off for the pretty much the year of 2020 and trying to start the process. But we had gone through about 6 to 8 months of infertility and trying to get pregnant, and it just wasn't happening. And she wasn't allowed to go to any of my appointments. I was just going by myself. And we ended up going to an appointment where she was allowed to finally come. And that's the appointment that our retrieval worked. And, we were really excited, but it's funny because I think it was, you're supposed to test, to see if you're pregnant 2 weeks after you do your IUI. And I was like, no, I can't wait that long. That's just crazy. So I tested on day 9, and that was on a Monday. And I tested in the morning while she was at work, and it came back positive, and I was shocked. I have a video I recorded of myself because I thought I would just be making these videos of, how it's just not working for us. But it worked. And so I was like, okay, I need to put a box together to surprise her. And prior to that, we had gone on a trip. And she was just saying, I think she loved Starbucks coffee. And she's like, I think the coffee is just messing with my stomach, just not feeling great. And so we ended up, I gave her the box, surprised her, and was like, oh my God, we're pregnant. And then within 2 hours, I was rushing her to the ER because she was in debilitating pain and couldn't stand up straight. And I was like, we just have to go. And so we were in the ER waiting, and she had gone to get an ultrasound and basically said that, I could just tell the look on the girl's face, something isn't okay. And so that's where they found a grapefruit-sized tumor on her right ovary.
Wow.
And, they were hopeful at that point it was a fibroid, but then they did cancer marker testing. And that's when the doctor, there was an OBGYN doctor that came in and said, you're likely dealing with cancer. We just don't know what. And so between telling her I was pregnant and then within 5 hours finding out she has cancer, but not knowing what, how, when, or what type or anything was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because I thought there's no way this baby's going to survive with what I just heard. It was just the emotional toll that's going to put on my body. So yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. In 5 hours is, almost unbelievable at how quick. And also, we hear people say they had some level of symptoms that they were ignoring, but it sounds like for her, it was very kind of quick.
Yeah. So we had gone on that trip before we were in the ER. We had a trip gifted to us for Christmas, and so we finally decided to take it. And we're like, oh well, we just did our fertility treatment, so let's just get away for a little bit. Maybe that'll help. And while we were there, she had some stomach pains, and it's like, well, where is it? And she said it's on my right side. And we were in San Luis Obispo, and there's not a lot of like hospitals in the area. And I told her, I said, well, why don't we just head home? I'd feel better us being closer to like one of our hospitals. So we just got in the car and went home. And at that point she was peeing blood. And so she's like, maybe it's just a UTI. Like, we really didn't know. And so luckily I had a doctor friend that we had called, and she's like, yeah, you guys should go into urgent care. So the next morning the pain had gone away. So the next morning we went into urgent care. And, but outside of like the 2 weeks prior of her getting diagnosed, she had zero symptoms. There was nothing. And we could look back and say like, oh, on Thanksgiving that prior year, she ate and then she was like doubled over in pain. And we were like, that's weird. And now looking back, you're like, okay, that was probably a sign, but how would you know?
Right.
Like, oh, I didn't just eat too much on Thanksgiving Day. Like,
yeah, out of context.
Right.
Yes.
And so there was really, honestly, like she was tired a lot, but we thought, she has a really tough job. Like, it's in the midst of us doing fertility and, fourth quarter with her job. And, but outside of that, like there was nothing that would have been jarring or like alerting to us that she had cancer.
Yeah. And obviously hard for her, to get that news also so shortly after finding out you both are pregnant. But for you, how did you process receiving all of this as well?
I was freaking out. I am somebody that always thinks worst case scenario. And my first thought was, oh my God, I'm about to have a baby and I'm about to have it alone. What does this mean? Mm-hmm. But my wife is so positive. She's like, we got this, like, we're going to figure this out. Like, she had her moments in the beginning where it was terrifying, but I think, I couldn't be the person that I naturally wanted to be, which was like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Like, you're not going to be here. Like, I need to think through like all the things that are going to happen, because you start thinking of your worst fears. And I just had to put those feelings aside and say like, okay, we're going to do this. Like, even though internally, like my body was I was terrified like every day, but I just kept trying to put on a strong face for her and like doing everything in my power to like not be so stressed that like the baby wouldn't survive. So yeah, I was terrified.
Yeah. It's interesting dynamic because on the one hand, you're being a caregiver to your wife while simultaneously essentially caregiving for your child.
Yeah.
And, it's, I guess, how did your perception / like role as a caregiver, how did that play out, knowing that you were sort of doing both together?
I think you go into fight or flight and you just are pushing through each day. I was just talking to my dad this morning and he's like, I saw what you went through, and having to put one foot in front of the other while simultaneously being terrified. You do what you have to do because you love this person so much. And I don't know, like part of me was like, please let this baby survive so that she has hope. And that was like the reason I truly feel like she was able to get to NED. And she fought so hard for like our child, because she wanted that so badly. And caregiving is I would never change anything. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, from start to finish. And I don't know, like, I think where life brought me was like, I was meant to do that for her. And I wouldn't change a thing. And now doing it for my daughter, even though it's really hard doing it alone.
Yeah.
I try to like, take the energy that my wife would have had and been like, okay, we're going to think positive about this. Like, but
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect segue because I was curious about how you're balancing, you know, fear, hope, resiliency, all at the same time, really. And I have to imagine that it would be difficult.
Yeah. I don't know if I would be here today if it weren't for my daughter. I don't know. She's the reason I got up every day, and I had to get up after she passed away. You know, it's hard because when you're dealing with your own grief, you think at times like you're the only one that's feeling it or emotionally in it. But then randomly, my daughter will be like, "Mommy, roll my window down," and then she just yells out the window like, "I love you, Mommy Kier." And it's those moments that, like, as much as I want to suppress and like just live in like the moment I'm in now, like she reminds me like, no, like we very much like are honoring her. We're in it. It's a wave of emotions. And when you think like you've made it through one stage, it's like another thing comes up that you're like, wait, how is this happening? And I think for me, like where I'm feeling right now is like, was that even real? And then I'm like, I know I have a child, so I know it was real, but like, it's like, what was my life these last like 7 years? Like, what actually happened? Because I see videos and I see pictures of us and I'm like it just all happened so fast that, and on top of that with COVID, and it just was like life just over the last like several years. It's confusing, to be honest. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be something where it takes years to process everything that would have happened during that time period.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it is I put 100% of myself to the side to be there to have a baby and then also be there for my wife. And luckily I had a job at the time that was so incredible and flexible and allowed me to take her to every appointment while also going to my appointments. She had gone through surgery to get all of the masses removed. And while she was recovering in the hospital, I had to go get my ultrasound to confirm that the pregnancy was, you know, still going okay. And we were while she was in the hospital room, she had an incision like all the way down her stomach. And so she couldn't really get up. And I was FaceTiming her to say like, hopefully this is like going okay. But I didn't want her to know that like, if the baby didn't survive, I didn't want her to know. So I waited until we found out that there was a heartbeat. And then we FaceTimed her and the doctor was a part of the whole process. But the whole journey in itself was, it's a lot.
Yeah. And can you share how you and Kirsten maintained your relationship during these moments? Because obviously she's going through treatment and that's very, very tough, I think, both physically and mentally. And so, I'm curious how you guys maintained that together.
Yeah, that was hard. Like you go from being like, oh, we're newlyweds, like we're about to start a family. This is everything we've ever hoped for, to like, now we have cancer. We have this third person in our marriage. Like it felt like we have this third person that we don't like, that is constantly a part of our conversation in our everyday. And I became a caretaker and she was the patient. And learning to date again after a diagnosis, or learning to love each other through this new challenge, is really hard because, you know, deep down inside, you're both thinking things and feeling emotions, but you don't want to put that burden on them, or scare them, or, you know, run through all your feelings. So that's where you have to lean on other people. And then you feel like you're somewhat hiding like your true self. Like I told her everything, and vice versa. It was really hard, even up until the day that she passed. Like we were really honest with each other, but I think there was a lot both of us held back because we just were trying to protect each other. But I know when she went into remission, we were like, okay, this is our time to live. Like, let's go live our life. Like, this is it. And we, you know, the simple arguments, like, were like null and void. We were like, what's the point? Like, there's literally so much more we could be dealing with. And so in one end, it was really hard, but on the other, it gave us perspective. And even to this day, there's things that happen in my life where I'm like, this is so trivial, like compared to like what, like we're all alive, we're all breathing, we're all here today. So as crappy as it is, that's the gift it gave. Is being able to like really enjoy the small moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not easy going through that and navigating a relationship on top of everything else, because your dates become your appointments, like, like, and you're like, how can we make this cute in like the weirdest way, because we're walking into a hospital room, but it's like a different love language that you have to show.
Yes.
Like through it all.
Yeah.
So.
And you mentioned a little bit about support, and I was curious about just accessing resources and what was helpful, because I think, part of it would be being a soon-to-be parent going through this, which is a unique situation. Also, being part of the LGBTQ plus community. Yeah. Did you find that there were any resources, or I'm curious just if there was anywhere that you turned to for support?
There was nothing. There's still limited resources, and it's getting better. Like we have Cheeky Charity now, which is an amazing organization. But I feel like I was the only like lesbian in going through colon cancer and or cancer at our age. And now, I've seen that there's more people that have experienced it. And I think it also comes with like the vulnerability of sharing your story, and more people will say like, oh, I've gone through this. And so that's why I am a little bit more open with our story, because if I can be a person that can help somebody in a time like that where I wish I would have had it, then great. But no, there's nothing in it. Even if there was, it was all people who were so much older and couldn't relate to like having a young kid, or navigating through having, like, we would sit in the doctor's office and we would look around like, how are we the youngest people here? Like, this is just, it just, the resources there was none. Like we literally just had to figure it out ourselves. And you're putting in hashtags on Instagram and like hoping that you could find someone to just relate to. But no, we didn't really have anything. Yeah. Which is a bummer.
Yeah. I think maybe my biggest takeaway from today and all the people that we've spoken to with so far is just that that's a very common thread, and this representative piece of having somebody who in some way mirrors your own experience and just being able to relate in that way is so important, I think. And it sounds like slowly people are trying to, advocate for this more, put more resources out there, but it is, I think, still a work in progress, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah. And I knew about Fight CRC a little bit prior to my wife's passing, but we also found a balance of like, what do we need to, how much do you want to lean into like seeing all these things? Because it's hard, but also how much do you want to, how much do you want to follow and continue to see like that stories don't go as planned or someone passes away? And so I tried my best to like stay away from it, whereas my wife was like leaning onto that because she wanted to see positive stories. But after she had passed away, that's where I was like, I need to find a community. I need to find something. And I had followed Fight CRC. I saw that they were doing Call on Congress. And so it was 3 months after she passed away. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. Like, I want to. And I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anything. I didn't know where I was supposed to go, what I was supposed to do. But I just showed up last year, and it was 3 months after she passed away. And I just remember walking in a room and like people would just come up to me like, hi, what's your name? Like, and you just don't even have to explain yourself. And so like, it's my biggest regret is like this community with Fight CRC and just the people I've met here, being able to have outside of the LGBTQ community, like being able to have like a human that can just say like, you don't have to explain yourself. I see it like in your eyes. Like, let me just give you a hug. And it's just like, I just remember leaving here feeling like, oh my God, this is what I've craved. Like
Yeah.
all of these years. And I wish my wife would have had that experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that, like, as hard as it can be to like open yourself and be vulnerable and accepting what's really happening, it was the best decision I could have made.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm back here again.
Yeah. Back here being an ambassador. Yeah. That's awesome. And I think I'm curious too, did you and your wife ever experience or receive at any point like different treatment because you were part of the LGBT plus community?
That was always a slippery slope.
Sure.
It's like we would gauge the physician,
Yeah.
we would gauge the audience and say, like, how do we want to go about this? Because are we going to be treated differently?
Mm-hmm.
I remember up until, and her oncologist was great. He was always very sweet, very respectful to our relationship. But it was always hard because anytime we'd walk into a room together, the first thing people would say is that your sister? And you're just like, oh, no. And then you got to explain it and go through the whole thing. And even up until she was put on hospice, when the nurses would walk in and be like, okay, like, they would immediately go and talk to her parents instead of like me as her wife. And that was hard. It's hard because, if I was a man and I was married to her, they would know, like, okay, I'm going to go to that person and talk to them. But there was always like this assumption that I was a friend or a sister. Mm-hmm. And then you'd have to run through that whole thing again. And even for her, I know one of her biggest pet peeves outside of being in the gay community was she'd go into scans and they're like, but you're too young for this. And she's like, I know, but what do I like? Right. I remember it irked her to her core. Like, she just was so frustrated when people would say that. It's like, well, thank you for that. Like, I appreciate it, but like, what do you want me to do with that information? Like, and I think like bringing more awareness in the medical community, like, she is young and that this doesn't need to happen is like very important. But I remember that being something that was like always a big like trigger point for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And Kirsten underwent biomarker testing, correct? What advice would you give to other people about understanding their, potentially cancer genetics?
Yeah. So she initially went through biomarker testing. Everything's coming at like such a fast pace.
Yeah.
That when they were like, oh, let's go through your genetic testing and see if any of this is genetics, which hers wasn't. But we had a call with a genetic counselor. And honestly, like remembering that call, I was like, I don't even know what you're telling me right now. Like, what does any of this mean? And you kind of just move on from that appointment and just like, okay, I guess that means we don't have to like worry about that. But it's one thing to have that mindset when things are going as planned. But then when things start to not go as planned and there aren't answers or solutions, then you're like, oh, shoot, like we need to know more information on this. And then until they basically said, like, we have no other options in terms of chemotherapy for you, we need to look at clinical trials. That's when they did additional biomarker testing to see what she would qualify for. And there's so much information that I just wish I would have known to be like, when she was in remission, like research, look at everything you possibly can, like take the time to like dig in and find out more information on like clinical trials that are out there, because you don't realize like clinical trials could be 6 months from now. And it's just not something that we ever knew. Yeah. And I feel like you're in such the fight or flight and you're pushing through and trying to just take all the information as it comes. But then when you get to that point where they're like, well, we have no other options, here's a clinical trial, you're like, well, where do I begin with this? And then it's like, you're on crunch time. Mm-hmm. And I wish that's something that I would have researched and known more about. Yeah. But, I try not to be hard on myself. Like, you're doing the best that you can. But, right. It wasn't something that we were like, to this day, I'm still like, wait, what? Like, what are like biomarkers? Like what? And there's so many different kinds and what works and what doesn't. And they explain it throughout the process, but it's like, you're you're sometimes in one ear and out the other because so much information being thrown at you.
Right. Yeah. And you had so much going on. I mean, it's drinking through a fire hose, essentially.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible to keep up, I think.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like that's extremely valid.
Yeah.
Just how you're supposed to keep track of it all it's seemingly impossible.
Yeah. It's like almost like you have to record every conversation and listen to it 5 times over. And then it's just, I don't know, maybe having like a third person in the room that like is like can interpret for you. Like, okay, so here's what we went over today.
Yes.
Because it is a lot of information. It's information overload.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to process like, how long is she going to live? Is she going to live? And what do we have to do like in the now? Because you don't want to overwhelm yourself with like all the possibilities, but at the same time, you can never let your guard down.
Yeah.
Even when you are in remission, because you're like, your body's still fighting. Like, and so, yeah, the biomarkers is something I wish I would have known more about.
Is there anything else, about colon cancer, just cancer in general, especially for younger people that now that you wish you knew then?
Yeah. I tell everyone I know, like, go and get screened. Like, if you have any sort of symptom, like constipation, like blood in your stool, whatever it may be, like, and here's the thing, if you get a no from a physician, go try another one. Like, keep trying until you get your yes, because she was told 3 days before she got diagnosed that, oh, you have a UTI, just go home and take at-home Azo. And she had a stool test and it came back clear. Everything came back clear on it. So for me, I'm like, no, you have to keep pushing. And sometimes it's so uncomfortable to challenge the status quo of like a physician, and you feel like, oh God, like I don't want to like make them feel like they're not like credentialed well enough to like, I'm challenging them. But like if you feel something's wrong with your body, like don't just accept like, oh, it's probably just, irritable bowel syndrome. Like, no, like in today's world, like you have to keep going until you can get a colonoscopy, or you can get a scan, or you can get fit testing, like whatever it is. I tell anybody my age, like, you are never too young, because they say that she's diagnosed at 32 and is probably in her body for 10 years prior to her getting diagnosed. And there was no way we would have found out unless she had a colonoscopy. There's absolutely no way. And it didn't run in her family. Yeah. And so how would we have ever known?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's when people say like, oh, I'm afraid to get a colonoscopy, I'm like, well, if you would have seen what she had to go through for 2.5 years, then you wouldn't be afraid of it.
Right.
Like, a colonoscopy is much easier than what she had to go through. And
absolutely,
the people surrounding her and her support system had to go through to try and get her through all of that too.
Yeah. And how has becoming a mother during this, journey shaped your perspective on life and love?
Yeah, it's bittersweet. I feel like, a lot of times when you go through such a tragic event, you black out a lot of things. And part of me is like, I don't even remember my pregnancy. Do I even remember this last year of my daughter's life, like while I'm grieving? And I feel guilty that I maybe am not the mother that I could have been for her, because of what we've been through. And I saw a video last night of, she's a 7-year-old girl just talking about how like at 2 years old, she lost her parent, and how she feels robbed because she doesn't remember, she doesn't know. And I just, like, I think of my little girl's heart, and it breaks me. Like, it breaks me to know that she will never know who her mom was, and all I can give her is videos and pictures. But every day, as hard as it is being a solo parent, it's like I was given this gift, but it's also at the same time, I'm terrified to lose her too.
Yeah.
Every day I'm like, if she gets sick, like what's going to happen to her? Does she have cancer? Does she have this? Mm-hmm. It's in this constant state of fear. And I know that'll eventually improve over time, but I think it's, if someone says, do you want to come on this trip? I said, hell yeah. Like, let's go. Like, there's no reason to wait because we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And, you know, I'm going to show her the best life I can, and navigate through it all, and just hope that we can just work through the really challenging part of like losing her, but also like remembering her. We buy her flowers every week and we put them in her urn where her ashes are. And she's like, Mommy, I want to get flowers for Mommy Cure. And anytime they see butterflies or balloons, because we send off balloons to her for her birthday, and the kids all like, we've tried to make it like just as much a part of like our family's life. Like she's still here, and she was really big on celebrations and just like going all out. And so as hard as it is to do those things, like I still try my best to say like, okay, this is what, you know, Kier would want. And so I feel like our family has really been able to like embrace her and like where she is, and send her balloons and flowers. And
yeah, that's really lovely. I mean, because it's not fair.
No.
And so, excuse me, I just think, it's one of those things where, like you said, there's not a lot of resources, and I guess you kind of just have to pave your own way, I guess, so to speak, and figure out what works best, you know, for you and your family.
Yeah. And it's also knowing that like, although I was her wife and Addie is her daughter, like there are so many people that loved her. Like she made everyone feel like they were the most important person to her. And even when she was on her hospice bed, like didn't know how much time she had, every person left that room crying because she made them feel better about themselves when they thought they were going to walk into the room to make her feel better. Like that's just the person that she was. And I know there's like, she has left a massive hole in a lot of people's hearts, but I also think that she changed so many people's lives because she truly lived life. Like she truly gave it everything she had. And part of me wonders sometimes, like, did her body just know that this was going to happen? Because like, how does someone live life so freely and so just like unapologetically themselves and just like carefree? Like, and you know, I'm like, how do you not have stress? Like, I don't understand. Even in her diagnosis, like she always just found like the positives in life. And sometimes I would be so mad at her. I'm like, how are you able to do this? And now I'm like, okay, I'm channeling her, like her energy. Because if she can do it, I guess any of us can. But
yeah, she sounds like an incredible person.
Oh, she is. Like she's an incredible human, and her parents did an amazing job raising her. And her friends, her family, everybody has just been so supportive of us. And it's just been, I'm, as hard as it is to have gone through something like this, I wouldn't change it. I'd do it all over again. She was and is the love of my life. And I was lucky to have the time that I did with her.
Yeah. Is there anything that you, or on behalf of Kirsten, want, like as a tidbit of wisdom or just a suggestion, want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah. You know, something her and my dad would always say, because he would take her to some of her appointments, is like, go live your life. Like, don't wait. Like, take the trip. Like, take the time. You never know. And I think you always think you're going to have time, but then you may not. And, just go and do it. If people like say yes, like there's what's holding us back is ourselves. And I think sometimes it's the fear of whatever it may be, or, oh, this job, or, you know, they filled her desk the day after she died, and she had given everything to the company and she loved what she did, but it's a business and it moves on. And I think sometimes you have to take a step back and say, like, let's see the bigger picture, and embrace that, like, we have everything we've hoped for, and just do all the things, and let the little things go. Like, you know, sometimes we can make them big things, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and for sharing your story and Kirsten's story. And it's just, I mean, I'd like to think that this episode is just another way of you and her continuing to advocate and spread the word. And so, yeah, just thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And I know she's somewhere up there proud.
Yes.